Good evening. Hi. Hello, everyone, and thank you to the Los Angeles LGBTQ Center for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. Is that better? Okay. All right, nailed it. Hi, guys. I just wanted to thank the LA LGBTQ Center for giving me the opportunity to say a few words, and thank you guys all for being here tonight. And a special thank you to tonight's honorees, our friends, my friends, Greg Berlanti and Robbie Rogers. I got to know both of them, Greg and Robbie, while we were filming Love, Simon, which was that was a significant experience for me on many levels. Sometimes when you shoot a movie, it's just a job. You know, it's you show up, you go to do your work, you head home, you collect a paycheck, hopefully. But on our film, things got very personal. Greg and I talked a lot about how we wanted to create this character, and as a part of that process, he shared many of his experiences with me, including what it was like for him to be a closeted teenager. So I got to know Greg's family, and because of our film, I also got to know mine. My brother came out around the same time as we were filming Love, Simon, and yeah, all right, give it up for Joe Robinson, everybody. I believe the timing was coincidental, but it turned out to be one of the best things that happened while we were making the film, and one of the best things to come out of it was just being able to facilitate a better conversation and an understanding between my brother and I. So I think that's one of the most important things. Yeah, I think that it was one of the most important things about Love, Simon was that it was a conversation starter and at least opening the door to greater understanding. It's a conversation that, based on so many of the emails and posts that fans have shared with us, is still very, very necessary. So as you can see, it makes sense that Greg was our indefatigable leader. I think I said that right. Because that's what he's been doing throughout his entire career. Using his incredible skills as a writer, producer, and director to start conversations that otherwise might not have happened. He started with his directorial debut in the Broken Hearts Club in 2000. And since then, he has given us so many groundbreaking moments in TV. From the first romantic kiss between two gay male characters on Dawson's Creek, to the first recurring transgender character in Primetime on Dirty Sexy Money, to the first openly gay African-American male and female superheroes on Arrow and Black Lightning. One of the themes of Love, Simon is that everyone deserves their own love story. And it's been such a joy to see Greg and Robbie's unfold over the past 2 years. We were actually talking before that their son was taking his first steps on the set of Love, Simon. And so it's been a privilege to watch their relationship grow and their marriage. This last fall, the two of them embark on their latest adventure together, the CW series All American, which was inspired by the real-life challenges of NFL player Spencer Paysinger. So if there's anyone that knows anything about the challenges that can come with being a star athlete, it's Robbie Rogers. When Robbie came out in 2013, he became the first openly gay soccer player to compete in North America. And since then, he has become a powerful advocate for the LGBTQ community, hosting Pride Nights at sports arenas and publishing his own memoir, Coming Out to Play, in 2014, in which he shared his experiences. Yeah, give it up for Come Out to Play. It's when he shared his experiences of growing up as a gay man in the world of professional sports and working with many LGBTQ organizations. When Robbie retired from soccer, he wrote a note to his fans on Instagram in which he talked about how he originally thought that his sexuality and pursuing his dream of becoming a professional soccer player were mutually exclusive ideas. But by the time he retired, he felt very differently. He wrote, "My happiest years as a player are the ones where I could walk through the stadium, and at the end of the tunnel, my partner and my son were waiting for me on the other end." And my only other regret in my 11-year career are the years that I spent in the closet. So I wish I could have found the courage that so many young individuals have shared with me in the past 5 years to live honestly and openly as a gay person. To those kids, I say thank you. My proudest accomplishments in my career is helping to create a more open sport for you. Greg Berlanti and Robbie Rogers truly embody the values of the LGBTQ Center. The belief that we can build a better world in which LGBTQ people are healthy, equal, and complete members of society. I'm so happy to present this award to both of you tonight. Please welcome to the stage my friends Robbie and Greg.
Thank you, everyone. We love and adore Nick. Thank you, Nick, for coming and for your kind words. Nick, everyone should know, is exactly the person that you want him to be: kind, sweet, funny, obviously talented, but incredibly humble. And we were lucky to get to know him and adopt him during Love, Simon as a friend to our whole family. We hope our son grows up to be just like Nick, except the actor part. No offense, Nick, but please, God, don't let our son be an actor.
Yes, thank you, Nick. I am a former athlete. I think
Former and current.
once an athlete, always an athlete. That's what they say. And thank you to everyone at the LGBT Center for this honor, and congrats to the other honorees this evening. When Greg and I were first asked to be honored together, truthfully, we were inclined to pass, just because we are extremely shy, I think, as you can tell. But we both have been so inspired by the LGBT Center, also the LGBT Youth Center, Lori. Last year when I was here, I had the honor of introducing her, and she really was such an inspiration to me when I was deciding to come back to play soccer and visiting that youth center, especially, and seeing the resources that they provide for the LGBT homeless youth population, which is the percentage of LGBT homeless youth in our country is staggering, and something that we should be wary of. But also having to write something and speak in front of you, in front of my amazing, prolific writing husband, is definitely not one of my top 10 goals in life. So.
And it's not like I like speaking publicly next to someone born in the late 1980s. Anyone over 40 will understand what I'm going through. But for starters, The LGBT Center played a small but critical role in Robbie and I beginning to date. A lot of people don't know this, but Robbie's first love, even more than soccer, is fashion. And when we were friends, before we started dating, Robbie suggested we donate some clothes to the LGBT Center. And I thought, cool, that's so nice of him. Robbie brought over to my house a small bag of clothes that he intended to donate. He then, no joke, proceeded to empty half of my closet. Not even my Lucky Justice League underwear made the cut.
All right, but so I admit, it was an elaborate plot to improve Greg's style, but in fairness to me, he had a closet full of Dawson's Creek-inspired oversized baggies and plaid shirts.
He's in Prada tonight, I'm in TJ Maxx. So, that has not changed. Anyway, we saw tonight as an opportunity to do two things. The first is to thank everyone that's a part of the center, from its inception to right now. When the center started in 1969, there were still sodomy laws on the books in California for another 5 years. Being homosexual was still listed as a mental disorder for another 4 years. So at the time of its founding, much of the world saw the heroes that started the LGBT Center as sick and criminal. But thankfully, that did not stop them. Its founders believed in a better future that didn't look like the one they lived in, and through their vision and their hard work and dedication and sacrifice, they built a refuge for their community, and they served as an example and helped change their city, their country, and ultimately the world.
We're very aware that our story as two out gay men who were out in our chosen professions, met and fell in love, got married in the presence of our family and friends, and became parents ourselves to our amazing son, Caleb. That story could only happen now in 2018. And that story, not just part of it, all of it, is the direct result of the work and sacrifice of the LGBT individuals who came before us. Sadly, many of their lives cut tragically short by a plague before they got to see the results of their dream that so many of us get to live. So tonight, we accept this honor in their memory. And we say thank you to the thousands who worked or volunteered at the center throughout the years. But we're also very aware that the dream is not yet complete. And if anything, it's under assault. And not just for the LGBT people, but underprivileged people, women, minorities, immigrants, people with disabilities. Our safety and equality and basic liberties are under threat now more than ever. There are others, many of them elected officials, who not only don't want to see advancements for the disenfranchised, they want to take us back to a time when our story wasn't even possible.
Which brings us to the second reason we wanted to be here tonight. Because as shy as we are individually and as a couple, it's more important than ever to share our stories. And so tonight we'll share part of ours. Robbie and I met because we were lucky enough to be out in our jobs. His coming out brought him back to the U.S. from England to play soccer. As many of you know, for him, playing as an openly gay man was a first in American soccer, and I got a front row seat, literally and figuratively, at watching what he went through. He went through many of the same struggles that all professional athletes go through: the exhaustion, the injuries, the travel, the muscle pulls, the ice packs, the surgeries. He had 3 surgeries in the first 3 years that we were dating. But he went through many struggles on top of those. He was called gay, derogatory comments on and off the field in English and in Spanish. Robbie learned not to go online during that time because in spite of the many grateful tweets and messages on social media, there were just as many hateful ones about him ruining a sport by merely, quote unquote, having to tell the world he was gay. Why couldn't he just play and shut up about his sexuality? Why was it so important? And then there were the more subtle homophobic comments on social media and even in legitimate publications, suggesting that his trade was merely for public relations reasons and that he wouldn't be playing or starting for the Galaxy if he was not gay. I thought about those commenters and critics when I watched Robbie play a critical role in helping his team win the MLS championships in 2014. Where Robbie Robbie was the first openly gay athlete to play on a championship team in a major league sport. And the entire time Robbie was playing, through all of this, you should know, his reason for doing so never wavered. He wanted LGBT kids to have someone to watch that was like them. He knew the power of representation because he didn't have it when he was growing up, isolated and alone. I fell in love with Robbie Rogers for many, many reasons, but not the least of them was because of his grace and strength and compassion during all of this, for his fellow players and the fans and even his critics. Robbie met every hardship during this time with compassion for the soccer community because he knew if real change was going to happen for the next generation, it wasn't just going to be rules that were going to have to change. He was going to have to change the hearts and minds of people too. And he did that just by being the amazing, one-of-a-kind human being that he is. And I didn't think it was possible, but the universe granted Robbie a talent even more pure than his gift for soccer, and that's his skill at fatherhood. It is. It's another incredible front row seat I've been given, watching Robbie be Daddy R, as he's called in our house. He's Daddy R, I'm Daddy G. And he's the favorite daddy. So as much as I may bathe or do stories the night before, at 5 a.m. the next morning, we'll hear Daddy R get called out. And watching him with all of his tenderness and playfulness and patience and love is the single greatest joy of my life.
The truth is, I knew Greg's work before I knew him. The images, particularly the LGBT storylines he wrote and fought for, had already been a lifeline to me when I was in the closet. And as we got to know each other, I was so impressed and how incredible was how humble he was about his accomplishments. But over the time we dated, I got to see him work with his team of fellow writers to build an entire comic book universe on television. I watched Greg fight and charm executives many times over who wonder why a certain comic book character that had always been a white straight dude now had to be black or female or lesbian or Latino or trans. I watched him deal time and time again with the fears of his bosses and others who wondered, wouldn't the fans be upset at the changes to these iconic characters? Greg would always say, what good are these heroes if they don't look like the world they are saving? I also watched him learn to avoid going online, where there certainly were grateful individuals who finally saw themselves on the screen, but there were others, still are, who weren't ready to accept change in any form. Finally, I got my own front row seat watching Greg direct and pour all of his heart and soul into Love, Simon last year. Many of his friends and coworkers wondered if Greg should stop everything he was doing in TV to go direct a, quote, small gay movie that might not do any business. But Greg knew its importance because it was a movie he felt he needed as a kid, and he believed kids still did. Two things were happening at the time. One, we were new parents, and Greg never stopped being the silly, storytelling, book-reading, puppet-talking Dada G that he is. Caleb literally rips puppets off my hands and gives it to Greg because he won't allow me to do puppets. And at the end of 16-hour days and nights, he would come home and tirelessly play with Caleb and sit with me, even though I knew how exhausted he was. The other thing that was happening was Greg's mom was sick with lung cancer and dying, and he still found time to be there for her too, taking care of her until she passed. But still, every day he put on a smile and offered endless encouragement to the crew and cast because he knew how important this film would be for the next generation. And now we're working together, and it's really so special for me because every room I go into, everyone in the room, when he leaves, says the same thing. They first acknowledge how brilliant he is. They forget I'm in the corner. and they are just so taken back by the story he's just broke. But they just are in such awe and just so amazed by how humble and sweet he remains after all of this success. And with a smile, I just think, they don't even know the half of how truly wonderful he is and how lucky Caleb and I really are.
All right. All right. All right. Enough crying and compliments right now. In closing, I think it's important that we add, it isn't always perfect. We have our share of struggles, individually and as a couple. And I think one thing we both share is growing up gay, it's somehow hard sometimes to let yourself receive the love that you really deserve. Which brings us back to the places like the LGBT Center. Without the LGBT Center and the changes in the world it's helped bring about, there's no way our story and that all of the blessings that we've been fortunate enough to have and the struggles, there's no way that any of it ever happens. Personally, I feel as though every LGBTQ person that's lucky enough to be in this room tonight, you are your own success story. And we all have the LGBT Center to thank. Robbie and I could not be more thankful and more ready to continue to do our part to make the world a better, safer, kinder, more equal place for families like ours to exist and to grow and to flourish.
We are lucky and happy to do our part and grateful to all of you that have done yours, again creating a world that made our story possible. So we're forever grateful to all of you in this room, and thanks again to the LGBT Center. Have a good night.